Storytelling, unfolding a pattern that connects. I build models to sort of figure out what I think I understand, and I share them with other people so they can help me understand more or tell me how much I already don't understand. And to do that, I have to provide them with a way of understanding what I think I understand. And I published this musing last October about how I go about building models, and it's a very short process. I begin with the situation, and I ask what influences this and what does this influence, and I ask those over and over and over again. And when I run out of answers, then I explain my model to somebody else and try not to be an idiot and argue with them. Now, to do this, as an example, here's a model that's been used, I've used and reused, but it's about unwanted pregnancy. So if the topic is unwanted pregnancy, I ask myself, what does this influence and what influences this? And I come up with a set of things such as use of contraceptions and sex and abortion and all these things. And then I ask the same question again with each one of these items in terms of I'm building out the set of relationships of things or influences that I consider to be related. And I continue to do this until I run out of things that I think are related. And then to get feedback from somebody else, I have to give them this. Now, if I send you this, you're going to look at it for about 5 minutes. And if you send me back a message, it's going to say something like probably, well, that's nice, but what you really want to say is, why the hell did you send this to me? Now, Kumu offers a way to go ahead and identify the loops in here and provide, in other words, I could go in and document each one of these elements, but that gets a little tedious. The loops are the part that has, tends to have more meaning to it. So if I go in and actually document all of the loops, then there's a way in Kumu to and each one of these, I've actually gone in and wrote descriptions of the loops. So within Kumu, there's a way to go ahead and tell it to provide you a sequence to unfold the loops in an order, and that's what's creating these dots across the bottom. So if I start here, all right, or if somebody else started here, they could walk through this, they could look at this, and they could read the note, and they could go down and look at the next one and read that note, and the next one, and read that note. And what's happening is that the sequence, walking through the sequence, actually builds out the model and explains the relationships as you go. And if I provided this to someone else, I would provide it with a video that goes ahead and explains the pieces. So all you need to do is sit there and watch the video and listen to me ramble on about what I think I understand about the relationships, which makes it a lot like watching a movie or going to the play, or even less engaging than reading a book. And though when I get done with this, all right, I end up with having unfolded the model, and if I told the story correctly, then I can ask you, what did I miss? And you can probably come up with some things that ought to be added to the model. Now, in terms of you notice that the sequence of these are 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3, 0, 4. That sequence was done that way so that Kumu can look at the labels on the loops and put things in the order. Now, I often find that I don't know how I want to tell the story before I build the model. And when I initially build the model, I only have half a sense of how I want to tell the story. And I often find that I unfold it one way and I'm uncomfortable with it, and I go back and I change the sequence and unfold it a different way. But the idea is to figure out how to unfold an evolving pattern that someone can connect with and understand to a point of being able to provide feedback. Now, this is one way to do this. There's also this was set up so that an individual could walk through this. You can tell Kumu to do these one at a time, but if it does it one at a time, then you miss getting a sense of the whole picture. If you go here and it says begin here, and then you can go here, and then here, and here. All right, so that it gives you pieces and lets you see them. But this is another one of those problems where by the time you get to the seventh piece, you can't remember what the first piece was. And Kumu also allows you, it's more involved, but you can actually go ahead and create a presentation so that you could walk through that presentation piece by piece by piece and explain the pieces. And you can put this together in whatever order you want to. But this is another example of me putting it together in a way that I would not do today, because you lose a sense of the evolving pattern. Now, then the question comes down to, you've built this and you think you understand what it means, and you present it to someone else. Kumu last week implemented a new feature for add loop, and it says detect loops automatically, which then gives you a list of all of the loops that it finds in your model. And the difficulty here, or to my surprise, is there are actually 9 loops in this model that I didn't know about, because you'll see that they're not labeled. There's one, there's one, there's one. So there are additional loops, which I could and should go back and figure out how that loop plays into the puzzle and how I should update the story. But the idea is now there's a way to actually go ahead and figure out what it is that you've got that you should be working with, as opposed to simply eyeballing the model and hoping that you've found all of the pieces that you should be working with. Now, in this particular model, after having worked with it for some time, I realized that there was an additional meaning here that's absolutely not evident. We tend to get lost in the detail and lose a sense of what's really going on. But what I figured out was that this part of the model, all of those loops, are really trying to accommodate births. And these pieces of the model are really trying to avoid births. And these pieces of the model are intending to avoid pregnancy. And after I figured that out, I realized that there were a couple of relationships that were actually not in this model, in terms of simply this relationship between avoid unwanted births and unwanted pregnancy avoidance. And it creates a reinforcing loop, a vicious reinforcing loop that moves the whole sequence of things in a direction that you absolutely don't want to go in. And this relationship, which promotes unwanted births, which is another vicious reinforcing loop, moving the set of relationships in a direction that you don't want to go. And what we actually have is 2 shifting the burden structures mushed together, so that focusing on avoiding unwanted births actually negates the intent or the efforts to avoid unwanted pregnancy. So you end up doing the short term and you get deep sixed by the overriding vicious reinforcing structure. The same thing with this one, in terms of here's another short-term balancing loop to avoid unwanted pregnancy, which sets up another vicious reinforcing loop, which actually promotes more unwanted pregnancies and unwanted births. So the point, what is the point? The point is that if I want to actually communicate what I think I understand to someone else, I have to build a model, and I have to be able to unfold it as a story so that someone else can understand what I think I know or understand at this point, so that they can provide feedback, meaningful feedback in terms of, well, you forgot this. Why did you put this piece in there? That doesn't work. And then I have to spend time and actually attempt to understand why they think those things, as opposed to, if I ask you for feedback, it's really stupid of me to argue with you about the feedback that you're providing me. So the whole intent of this musing was simply to say there are ways in Kumu to unfold a model piece by piece by piece in any order that you want to unfold it, to tell a story that creates a pattern. As Bateson said, it's the pattern that connects. And as I pondered that one statement repeatedly, it actually has multiple meanings if you think about it for a while. So hope you found this of some interest. There's a couple other links in the musing, one to a musing about my belief that for most people modeling is an unnatural act, and my thoughts as to why that is. And this one about a model as a story, which is another one that I did way back in October. And then there's a link to this Kumu model, which is a learning model, a sequence for understanding all of the dimensions of storytelling within Kumu, which I should update to indicate the new feature that just added for auto loop detection. So hope you found this of some interest, and I'll see you in another musing soon. Bye.